Florida's Women in Energy Leadership Forum was launched to inform, inspire, motivate diverse talent to join the energy workforce by intentional recognition of current female energy leaders who contribute to growing Florida's economy and the purposeful sharing of their professional journeys. We are creating opportunity. Join me each week as we meet new leaders in energy and listen to their important roles in an industry that is vital to the country's future. Welcome, ladies. I am so excited about this week's show. Listeners, welcome. We're really happy to have you this week as we visit with three rock stars from the Chesapeake Utilities Corporation. I want them to self-introduce themselves because I really won't be able to serve their careers justice. I know I'll leave something out, but just to give context to this, because we all know I love to give context to everything we're doing. These three ladies are instrumental at Chesapeake in launching the Women in Energy Employee Resource Group that they were inspired to do after we launched the Florida's Women in Energy Leadership Forum. So I want to start with Devin. Why don't you introduce yourself, and we'll go to Debbie next.
Sure. Well, thank you, Lila. We're happy to be here. My name is Devin Redloff, and I am the Assistant Vice President of Human Resources for Chesapeake Utilities. I've been here with Chesapeake for about 10 years and been in the energy industry this is my 30th year. So I'm a graduate of Florida State University, and I'm currently the Vice Chair for the Women in Energy program here at Chesapeake. Happy to be here.
Go Knowles. Now, you know, when she said 30 years, we were all thinking that she started working at 10, right? Right, Debbie? And you were right there with her.
Yes, I was right there with her. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Debbie Smith. I'm the Community Engagement Manager for Chesapeake Utilities Corporation. I've been with the company for about 9 years. I'm actually an accountant by profession with 20 plus years of experience. And I'm also a graduate of Delaware State University. I have my MBA from there. Delaware State University is the HBCU, Delaware's HBCU, Historically Black College and University. And so I'm also a member of the Delaware American Heart Association Board of Directors. And I'm excited to be here to share with you the wonderful things that we're doing at Chesapeake Utilities Corporation.
We're lucky to have you, Debbie. Thank you. Thank you. Kira, our colleague from Florida.
Hi, everyone. And thank you, Lila, for hosting this. My name is Kira Lake, and I'm the Director of Growth and Retention here at Chesapeake Utilities. I've been with the company for just over 13 years now, and I'm just happy to be here. I graduated with an MBA from Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University in Daytona Beach. And again, I'm just happy to be here to share what we're doing at Chesapeake.
Thank you. Well, before we get started, ladies, I've got to put a disclaimer in. We've got to disclose that I'm a member of the Board of Directors of Chesapeake Utilities Corporation, which is a New York Stock Exchange publicly traded company. And we're thrilled to be headquartered in Delaware. And we've got services in Delaware and Maryland and Ohio and Pennsylvania, Virginia, and Florida. We all know the company in Florida as Florida Public Utilities Company. And Devin, that's where I want to start. When I launched Florida's Women in Energy Leadership Forum late 2015, and we actually had the first forum in 2016, Florida Public Utilities was first to come out in support of the initiative, what we were trying to accomplish, and putting the highest ranking women in the energy industry on the stage to share their personal and professional journeys with the idea that we could inform, inspire, and motivate. And I remember like yesterday that Cheryl Martin and Aleda Sakaris were amongst the first to support the forum. And you did something, the group did something after the forum that was unique, and you still have it today. You want to describe what that is?
Sure. So as you mentioned, in Florida, we had several women in our Florida locations that attended the first Florida Women in Energy Leadership Forum there in 2016. Well, they came back from this session. They were inspired, they were excited, and they wanted to create our own Women in Energy program. So our very first one began in South Florida in our Florida Public Utilities division. And so what they did was they met informally. They had different meetings where they would share a meal or discuss a topic that interested them. And that went on for about a year or so. And at the same time, our north in our Delaware office, they were trying to start a formal program. But to be honest with you, they did meet informally, and they had some, but it kind of it died out, to be honest with you. And I think the reason why it did is because we didn't have the framework and the vision and the purpose and the objectives and all of that. So about 2 years ago, we actually revamped a company-wide program. So it wasn't each business unit doing their own thing. And for the last 2 years, we've been very successful. And part of that is because we have an executive sponsor, so a member of our senior leadership team. And as you mentioned, Aleda Sokaris was the chair. She was the chair for Women in Energy here at Chesapeake. And then Cheryl Martin was the co-chair. So she's the chair this year.
Yeah, Leda had a successful, wonderful career in energy, retired, I think, last year, maybe year before last. And it's great that Cheryl was the vice chair, because I think that succession planning, we'll talk about the best practices and why the Women in Energy Initiative remains today at Chesapeake. But I have a feeling that the purposeful succession planning helps with that. And as Cheryl has become the chair, you're the vice chair, Devin?
Correct. Yeah. So we've actually implemented a couple more chairs. So today we have the chair, the first chair, and a co-chair. And so that will help with the succession plan. So Cheryl will be the liaison, and she'll always be a part of this group, but she'll roll off as being the chair next year.
And so, you know, what else that does, I think, I've not spoken to you about this, but from the outside looking in, I think that also sends a signal of commitment. You know, the organization is committed to doing this. And I don't want to lose sight of something you said earlier, which is the executive management team is involved now. So, ladies, one of the reasons I wanted to speak with the three of you today is, you know, I get the question all the time: where do I start? How do I form the Women in Energy initiative in my own corporation? So this hour is really devoted to how do you do it? Where did you start? And so we've heard you talk about succession planning. I heard you reference mission and vision. Let me turn to Debbie and Kira. Fill in the gaps for us here. Debbie, it was really important that you could put a mission and vision statement to the initiative. Is that right?
That is exactly correct. Actually, that's where we actually got our starting point. So, you know, currently right now, you know, in around June of 2020, Jeff Householder, our president and CEO, actually created and established the EDI Council. And so from that, you know, we actually started off with a vision and a mission statement. And so the committee is off to a great start. And the vision of the EDI Council is for everyone to embrace and share their diverse experiences and backgrounds, which will transform the communities that we serve and the world into a better place. Our differences make us stronger. And along with that, the mission. The mission is our team will reflect the communities that we serve, and our commitment to equity, diversity, and inclusion will drive our business strategies, policies, and procedures, individual development, and community outreach. And so as we started to create our mission and vision, we then developed some tactics. And then those tactics actually rolled over into subcommittees. And so currently right now, I'm co-chairing the EDI Council with Cheryl Martin, who is the VP of Regulatory and Governmental Affairs. And so we have about 14 teammates, diverse teammates throughout the organization that actually sit on the council. And so as we establish the tactics, we then actually establish subcommittees. And each one of those, council members is actually chairing and serving as the lead for those particular subcommittees.
So EDI, equity, diversity, and inclusion. I'm cheating here a little bit because I know when you first launched it, it was diversity and inclusion, but that wasn't enough, right, Debbie? And you want to explain the genesis and why you really wanted to add equity into the equation?
Yes, and equity is very important. And as you just stated, initially when Jeff Householder established the council, it was the D&I task force. And so as the committee started, initial meetings and discussing where we wanted to go, we felt like, and it was, diplomatic, we actually kind of tossed some ideas around, and we felt like the equity piece was just as important. Jeff Householder wants to make sure that everyone has the ability to bring their whole selves to work. And that equity piece is important because, all 900 and something of us employees matter, and all of us have something to bring to the table. And so it's very important that we are able to bring our whole selves to work, and that, together, we're stronger together with all of our differences.
I don't think we can give Jeff enough credit. I do want to pause just a minute and acknowledge his role in all of this. You all may recall when you did launch the FPU Women in Energy, Jeff was the president of Florida Public Utilities, and obviously has been a supporter of the forum from the very beginning. He's now president and CEO of Chesapeake Utilities and has been really firm in his purposeful intention. I always use that word because I do think equity, diversity, and inclusion has to be matched with the word purposeful. And Kira, you're another example of Jeff's purposeful inclusion, I think. And you can elaborate on that as we've all, again, from the outside looking in, watched you grow in your career. We all need our champions, and I think Jeff has been a champion to many of us. Would you agree with that, Kira? He's watching. I'm sure he's watching, Kira. No pressure. No pressure. I mean, you could say what you really feel. That's all right.
No, certainly I would agree with you. And not only Jeff, everyone at Chesapeake and Florida Public Utilities has definitely helped with my career. I started at Chesapeake Utilities as a temporary employee almost 14 years ago, and saw an opportunity to join the team, and I'm so grateful that I was able to do that. Others, like Elena that you mentioned earlier, was instrumental in my growth as well. And so, just with their guidance and mentorship, I've been able to progress and use the opportunities that I was given at Chesapeake.
Yeah, good. Okay, so we've talked about succession planning. We've talked about the importance of having a mission and vision statement. We know that you've established the broader Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Council that includes these employee resource groups, including the Women in Energy Committee. So how did you know what employees would need to hear or have available to them as part of these initiatives?
I'm sorry, is that question for me, Lila? I apologize.
Anyone. How did you know what the employees needed in terms of tools as part of these committees?
Okay, I can speak to that. What we actually did is we conducted a survey, to try to see exactly what our teammates really wanted. And so we sent out numerous surveys, and those surveys were actually sent out to actually poll what type of ERG groups would you be interested in serving on. Also looking to see if you would like to be willing to assist with some of the subcommittees that were developed too. So we realized that it's a team effort. And as I said earlier, our differences make us stronger. So coming together on one accord with the one mission in mind. And it's important too. It's the inclusivity piece that really brings it all together. And that's one of the things, that I've heard, Jeff Householder say is that he wants everyone to have a seat at the table and that everyone matters.
Absolutely. And these committees, we should note, Kira, that the committees are men and women, right? And
yes.
And I know for a fact that one committee relates to veterans. Is that correct?
That is correct. So just to follow up with what Debbie was saying, yes, we did send out several surveys to our employee base just to poll and see what interest groups they were, interested in having. And so I was able to talk to the respondents. I set up little mini interviews or conversations with those respondents just to dive deeper and see what they really were wanting. And several groups kind of rose to the top. One was a veterans group. I think that's definitely important to recognize those who have served our country, but also to recognize their value, the value that they bring to Chesapeake with the things that they have learned during their military service, their critical thinking and all the other, attributes that they would have learned there. We have several other groups that we are working with now. We are starting we call it the Generation Y and Z group. We haven't formally given it a name yet, but others call it like our young professionals or young employees group. We are starting a group that we're calling Wisdom Seekers and Sharers. And the intent is to support those who have been with Chesapeake for many years and maybe at the end of their working career. So we have several groups that we're working
I
with
love
too.
that. And then, so then are you going to integrate the Generation Y and Z group with the Wisdom Sharers group and have a forum, right? We're going to have a professional development opportunity there. How
Yes.
clever. Wisdom Sharers and Seekers. I love that.
Yeah, I can't take credit. I didn't come up with the name. Amelia Lewis, who's chairing that group, worked on that name, and I think it's great. The work that they're doing to set up the framework for the ERGs is great.
As we enter into that category, I like that title even more and more. Yeah. We should have like an official graduation,
Sure.
pass the baton. But the truth is, we're always learning at any age. We're always learning.
Absolutely.
We are.
Yeah. Well, it takes leadership to do what you all have done internally. And I hope that it can be replicated, not just in our industry, not just in the energy and natural gas industry, but frankly, any corporation can do this, whatever is right for them. I know that Florida Public Utilities started it as a professional development tool internally for the group of women that worked in Florida. I think now, Debbie, you use it as a vehicle for communication of the mission of the organization as well. Is that correct?
That is correct. That is exactly correct. Because, at where we are right now with the mission and trying to develop it and carve it out, we had to actually, do a deep dive, and you definitely cannot go from point A to point B or to point C if you don't start with a vision and a mission.
Yeah, absolutely. And Devin, from an HR perspective, this is providing, I think, some opportunity for you to assess leadership initiative in employees as far as, promotional advancement and helping team members get to the next level. Have you incorporated that into your HR work as well?
Absolutely. So some of the things that come to my mind is these kind of employee resource groups are exactly what we need to have that safe environment for people to, present and expand their presentation skills. We've got some women that may be uncomfortable speaking in front of a large group or even a small group. But if we have something like we've just incorporated during this COVID, we're calling them We Huddles. And it's Women in Energy. WIE, We Huddle, and it's every Monday, and it's just a 10-minute presentation at the lunch hour. And so it's about a topic that someone may be passionate about. For example, we had a session on magic tricks. We had another session on a healthy recipe, another session on how do I manage finances and budgeting, stress, meditation, exercises. So all these kind of topics. So they may not be comfortable putting together a presentation in front of a large group of people, but they may be comfortable having a 10-minute presentation where they're sharing this. And it's just been a wonderful experience for me to see these opportunities for people, and they blossom and they shine.
Absolutely. It doesn't matter what the topic is. It's giving them the outlet to have a public speaking opportunity, right?
Right.
That's great.
Exactly.
That's wonderful. And so, ladies, you ready to get personal?
Certainly.
You ready? Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. So, Kira, everyone who was listening already is like, she went to Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, really? So, aviation, do explain, do share.
Do share. So yes, I that's my alma mater. I obtained my bachelor's degree from Embry-Riddle and then went back to pursue my master's degree there. And so when I graduated, I was looking for work, and in the meantime, decided that I would, look for some temporary opportunities, and Florida Public Utilities was my assignment. And so it was meant to be temporary, right? But that didn't, God had other plans. So, and I'm thankful for that. Like I said, I was welcomed into Florida Public Utilities in Chesapeake, and really saw an opportunity to grow with the company. And so after 6 months, a position popped up for energy conservation. And I, in my temporary work, had already been working with the energy conservation manager at that time. And so he said, yeah, you can do this. And I applied and got the job, which was great. And so I did that for many years, was promoted to supervisor of that group, and then eventually managing that group. And then had the opportunity under Aleda to work with the energy logistics group. And if you know anything about me, I'm kind of the one to say, yeah, I'll do it, whether or not it's in my wheelhouse or not.
It's important though, right? We should talk about that. We've all heard and learned that much of the difference between men and women professionally is that women sometimes can be hesitant to raise their hand and say, I'm qualified for that. I can do that. And you've already, I think, broken two barriers and provided two lessons, Kira. One is you remained flexible, even though your degree was in something completely different, albeit I'm sure there's a lot that transfers into what you're doing now, but nevertheless, you remained flexible and you took an opportunity that presented itself. And the second thing is you're not afraid to say, I can do that.
Yeah. And I wasn't always that, I was afraid before to say I can do that. I think, and even now, I wouldn't say I'm the most vocal person to say I'm going to do that. But I will say that if there's an opportunity to volunteer or to learn something new or to manage a group that I don't know much about, I feel like I always like to jump in and learn. So yeah, my recommendation to anybody looking for an opportunity, whether it's with Chesapeake or anywhere else, is just to remain flexible, be adaptable, and to say yes to an opportunity. You never know where it's going to take you.
You've gotten a lot of great feedback, ladies. Kira is an amazing leader. That note says she's kind, hardworking, and eager to help in any situation. So, Devin, you've got an interesting background as well, and you've sort of stumbled into energy. But as you listen to Kira and consider your own path, are these also the kinds of, is this the content that can be helpful in some of these employee resource groups as well, right? Because we have to advance women and men in any company as far as their potential will take them, right? And sometimes we all get stuck in positions because there's no open vacancy. And I think there's a lot that is lost in a structured environment like that. What I've appreciated over the years watching the Chesapeake Utilities model is we don't lose that kind of professional opportunity. We find an opportunity for our team members that have the skills and the desire to move within the organization. And that can be challenging from an HR perspective, I know, but you've done it masterfully, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and a lot of times there may not be a particular job opportunity that's there, but it's all about making yourself available, saying yes, doing things outside of your comfort zone, and maybe certain situations such as these employee resource groups. What a great opportunity to have some networking opportunity, because we all need mentors. We need people to help encourage us. Sometimes it's for those folks that maybe aren't comfortable raising their hand saying, I can do that. We need some cheerleaders on the sideline and, encouraging each other. Sure, you can do that. Just try it.
Right. Absolutely. So what is your background, Devin? I know, but some may not know that you didn't start your career in energy, and I don't think this is what you expected to be doing. But we're so glad you're there, though.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, my career began in the late 80s, and I was not one who went to college right out of high school. when you're 18, you think you're going to solve the world's problems, and you're going to do things a different way. But anyway, I had no intention of going to college. I was working in retail management, and I was struggling financially. I was working 2 jobs, a full-time job and 2 part-time jobs. And I was in retail. So I was working every night, every weekend, every holiday. And I thought, wow, maybe, my parents are right. Maybe I should have went to college, And so I started going back to college part-time at night. Back then they didn't have all this online learning opportunities. But so I was paying my own way. And as I mentioned, retail doesn't pay very much, and the hours aren't that great. And so I thought, I just need to go find a job where an employer will just help me pay for the rest of my tuition so that I can graduate. And all I wanted to do was be a teacher, right? And so I found out that there was a local gas company called West Florida Natural Gas that was looking for an administrative assistant. And I thought, you know what? I can go do that for a year or 2 while they help finish paying for my college. So I was very honest. I went and applied. Back then I took a typing test and got accepted.
Wow. Y'all remember those? We all remember typing tests.
Yeah. And so they hired me as the administrative assistant. And I told them, I said, look, I'll be a great employee. I will work hard for you, but this is going to be short term. I really just need some tuition assistance. And they said, well, don't worry about it. Maybe we'll have some teaching opportunities for you here. You just never know. And so sure enough, they allowed me to go teach and do junior achievement. So for 1 hour a week, I got to teach 8th graders and feel that, passion.
Wow.
And it was just such a great opportunity. And so, as Kira had said, sometimes things don't always work out like you had planned, right? So here I am, 30 years later, and I'm still in the industry. So it's just been a great opportunity.
Teaching. I mean, everything you do is about teaching others the opportunities of the energy field, right? We're always teaching. Yeah, that's a good thing. And thankfully always learning. Debbie, what about you? So from accounting into Chesapeake.
Yes. And actually, I guess about 9 years ago, I actually onboarded as the cash disbursement supervisor. So I was actually responsible for accounts payable. And then, I progressed on the GL side of accounting. And then when this opportunity became available, this actually is a newly created position. And that's the great thing about, Chesapeake. Here you have an accountant that's now working in the corporate comm department. And it's a wonderful thing. I knew right away that I had made the right choice. Chesapeake's aspiring and caring brand DNA aligned with who I am personally. And so it was just a perfect fit for me, where I'm able to be myself and, bring all the attributes that I have that make me whole to the company and be able to use that to work with my teammates and to advance.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, selfishly as a board member, one of the other things I've appreciated about Jeff Householder and the entire executive management team is giving us access to each other, right? You hear some companies, not necessarily in our industry, but where the board member is communicating with the CEO and only the CEO or the general counsel. And I have really, really appreciated getting to know all of our team members, because at the end of the day, as you all always hear me say, it takes a village, right?
It does.
I mean, I think another feather in the cap of our executive management team and Jeff is the confidence that he has surrounded himself by really, really smart people. And why not let the board members and others get to know them, right?
Exactly. And we so appreciate that.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you. So, ladies, 2 things have happened this year that clearly we didn't expect COVID, right? And that's impacted what you're doing in terms of the employee resource groups. It's impacted everyone in every company. But the other thing is the murder of George Floyd and the resurgence of the Black Lives Matter initiative and all of that. So I want to cover all of that with you because the company was very vocal quickly with regard to both of those things. So let's talk COVID. How did it impact the relaunch of the Women in Energy Group? I think our equity, diversity, and inclusion launch came with the police brutality issues, and but with COVID in particular, I think that changed the way you were launching the Women in Energy group, right, Devin?
It did, and we had to readjust because, as we talked about earlier, it's what a wonderful opportunity it is to network in person with folks. Well, all of a sudden, we're all working from home, and how do you have that connection back and forth? And so we had to regroup and think about what are the things that we can do. So, this company has always amazed me, but how we are handling this pandemic has just been incredible. All the different task force and everything, but Women in Energy is no different. So we thought about how we could actually have not only the Women in Energy huddles that I just mentioned, but we have things like a book club, right? So it's called We, Women in Energy, WIE. We are on the same page. And so
who comes up with these names? All right. So is there one person in all of these groups that says this is what we should call this one?
No, I think it's just the beauty of all the creativity of all these people. Yeah. But so we had to do things a little different, and we encourage people. Okay, it's very easy, and during this COVID situation, to sit in front of your computer and be on video calls and meetings all day long. And so you've got to be able to utilize this opportunity. Let's pick up a new hobby. What are some things that you always wanted to do if you had more time? Well, let's make that time. And so we're just trying to encourage that kind of connection.
That's wonderful, and in many ways, it may allow more connectivity because we're all virtual now. You don't have to go book that conference room, and you don't necessarily have to herd cats in the calendar. Whoever can participate can participate, right?
Right.
So let me digress for a minute. Speaking of creativity, can we give Kira credit for having the best backdrop? Did you put the frames together on your own and then measure between the frames? That's something my husband would do, is measure between the frames to make sure they're perfect. That's just a beautiful backdrop. That's great.
Thank you.
You made that, didn't you?
I did. It's been up. We moved into the house 3.5 years ago, and the wall was blank. And Sean, my husband, left for half a day and came back, and it was up.
Well, of course. All right, ladies. So who wants to address this? Debbie, I know you were very instrumentally involved with this, but after the George Floyd murder, I know Jeff started working on a statement right away, and then there was, a couple of more murders quickly there, right? Tragic deaths, and Jeff released a statement, right, Debbie? But there were steps he took before he even did that. Do you want to elaborate and share with our viewers some of the things that he did on behalf of the company?
Certainly, yes. And as you stated, when we the EDI Council D&I has always been a part of Chesapeake's culture. With the creation of the EDI Council, it just actually turned our focus a little bit into to kind of tunnel in onto what we needed to do. So it's always been a part of our culture. But, immediately right off the bat, Jeff actually, we were having some discussions about it and going back and forth about it. And, he was very, stern that, we definitely need to release a statement. And he was very stern about releasing a statement and taking a stand. And, I admire him for that. He definitely is the type of person that cares. And you can definitely see that, if anyone has any conversation with him, you can feel it, you can just feel it right here, coming from him. And I love that. He's always talking about, Chesapeake has this special sauce. We're not always like your typical energy company. And that special sauce, I believe, are the people, the team. We actually are that special sauce that makes everything kind of come together. But in lines with that, also in creating the diversity, the EDI Council, also what we did was we also donated also to roughly around $200K to 3 national organizations that would include the Salvation Army, and then also Feeding America, and then also United Way. And what we actually did was to make sure that we were actually assisting those customers that live in the communities that we serve. So we actually made sure that those funds actually went right back into those communities where we serve. And then what we also did was we reached out to the business units and said, hey, what organizations do you also want to contribute to? And then to top it off, what we did was we actually ran a campaign, an employee giving campaign, which is awesome. And so, the corporate office actually matched, dollar for dollar that campaign. And that was just awesome. It was
and
awesome
everyone felt included. I mean, a whole different level, but
exactly.
Everyone was included. So that as a whole, was that what you referred to as Chesapeake Cares? We're very active in social media, Chesapeake is, and Chesapeake Utilities, and one of not to be confused with Chesapeake Energy. We are Chesapeake Utilities Corporation, and Chesapeake Cares has become part of our brand. I know that we started that, of course, pre-COVID and pre-Black Lives Matter, but it's become a symbol, I think, for us in everything that we do in community and employee and safety.
Exactly. Everything all ties in together. And, even if you look back, of course, we've been in existence for over 160 years. And, looking back in some of the archives of the photos, I see that even back 160 years ago, we were always caring about the community where we live, work, and serve. So it's nothing new to us now. And so it's just how we do business.
Absolutely. And Kira, what has it personally meant for you?
Everything, Chesapeake is a family, like she said. We have that secret sauce. And I feel like the company has, at least from what I've seen, always done a good job of hiring on attitude, right? Not always just aptitude. I think you hire aspiring and caring employees, and then you teach them about energy. I mean, that's what I feel like happened to me.
Exactly.
And so it's meant a lot to me. I really value the family that we have to be.
So well said. So I see it at every level. I feel the same way. I've never felt more included.
Yeah,
Really.
and I think when you look at the initiatives or the tactics that Debbie talked about earlier for the EDI Council, whether it's mentorship or networking or educational opportunities, community involvement, I think that's how the company shows that they care, right? And so I'm really proud and excited for what the EDI Council is putting out, and especially for my subcommittee, the ERG groups.
Absolutely. So Devin, coming back to COVID, we've got our first question from the audience, and it is this: did you go to remote work post-COVID?
Yes, we did. About 80% of our workforce went home immediately, and we were working through all the BIS issues as far as trying to get our technology to accommodate all that, and they've done a remarkable job. So still today, about 80% of our workforce is working from home remotely. And one of the blessings from an HR perspective, at least in my perspective, is we had planned all of this what I call core training for employees. So we were going to go and do several different workshops in all these different locations. Well, now we've got 80% of our workforce at home. Why don't we just have one little webinar, and let's record that, and let's just have it there available for all the employees. So we have actually rolled out Wednesday webinars. And so every Wednesday at 2:00, there's some kind of training opportunity, whether it's natural gas 101 or propane 101 or
that's great.
Stress management. And so it's just a great opportunity for us.
I would note that the board members haven't been invited to that.
We'll get to that.
Wednesday, what time?
Tomorrow.
2:00. Jim Moriarty is back there going, you shouldn't have said that. Send me an email now, wants to be there. I'm not looking for one more meeting, but no, that's wonderful. Wednesday webinar. Look, Devin is panicked.
No, you're more than welcome to attend. We've got some great sessions.
Wednesday webinars. I love that. But there was something else that the management team that Jeff did post-COVID. Of course, the viewer wouldn't know this, but the weekly employee calls, the only reason obviously we know about it, it was part of the communication strategy, but there were there were invitations. There were invitations that went out to employees to say, we want your ideas. And of course, it wasn't just seeking ideas, it was implementing ideas. Devin, do you want to speak to that? Or maybe Deb, I don't know who was most involved with that.
Well, I'll start off and then they can jump in. So one of the things that Jeff did was he created pandemic task force committees. So we have a pandemic task force committee that I was a part of, or still am, and it consists of several different folks in different business units. So there's a committee there, and then there's a human resources pandemic task force, and then there's an engagement task force, and then a communications task force. All these different task forces working together because it's really important too that, especially when we're all remote, that we have some kind of communication and networking with each other. So Jeff he had a weekly call every Wednesday at 8 or 8:30. He would have an update call, and he'd give us all an account of what is our current COVID number. And I think because of the wonderful measures we took at the beginning of all this pandemic, that's the reason why our numbers are so low. I look at our peer companies, and they've got hundreds and hundreds of employees that are positive for COVID, and we're very blessed to have such a low number.
Yeah. So we've got another question from the viewers. In 2020, do you find that it continues to be a male-dominated industry? I mean, obviously, so the question obviously relates to the energy industry. Is the energy industry still a male-dominated industry? Kira, you want to take that on first, and we'll go around?
Sure. I mean, I don't have exact numbers, but I feel like the energy industry has definitely embraced female employees, and certainly Chesapeake has, obviously with the formation of the interest group for women. But I think it's important to note that, and even for the Women in Energy Consortium for Florida, I attended those conferences, and there were guys there, there were men there, and so I think it's important because I think what's driving that is women wanting to be in the energy industry. But I think it's also those who are already there welcoming others in. So again, I don't know what the actual numbers are, whether there's more or less, but whether it's more or less, I think we're definitely welcomed in the industry.
Yeah, Devin, like Kira, I don't know what the numbers are either. It would be wonderful to figure out how to assess that. Maybe our good friends at one of the universities would help us out with that. But back in 1990, I know it wasn't uncommon for me to be the only woman in the room, whether it was the water, telecom, or electric, frankly. But today it does feel different. And I think Kira's right. I think some of it has to do with women educating themselves on the number of different careers in the industry.
Exactly.
So, and if I could toot the horn of the Energy Forum and two aspects. One is, I think, when you have a diverse agenda in terms of highlighting the different careers, you're exposing women to those different careers. And the second thing is, you have to have men in the room. I really did not want it to be a women-only conference. Those are important. We all go to them. But that's not the purpose of this. I think you have to have men in the room. You have to, the education is two-way, right? We want our male colleagues to know that women are interested in the industry, that they can do the job, and that they need a champion. And and if I had to find a third, it would be to matchmake the students with the industry. I think those initiatives, which can be replicated, by the way, work. I think they work. Has that been your experience, Devin? And 30 years, you've seen a lot of changes in that industry.
I've seen a lot of changes, and I've seen a lot more women in the industry. There's certain jobs that even today are still male dominated, not for lack of an effort on our part, because we're out there working with the STEM students, with American Heart Association. We're out there at the local colleges and high schools doing some job fairs, just educating folks. But there's certain jobs that we just get more applicants, like a lineman in our electric division. I would love to have a female lineman, right?
Mhm.
We just
Right,
don't get many
absolutely.
applicants. And in the
Yeah.
rare occasions that we do, we absolutely want to interview them. So I think part of it is us just educating folks about what opportunities are there for women in this energy industry. There's a lot of opportunities out there.
There is, absolutely.
Absolutely.
And Debbie, here's another question from a viewer. How do you have those hard conversations with male leadership bosses about expanding your career opportunities or your advancement in the company? Where do you start, Debbie?
Well, I think where you start is you have to have that safe space to be able to have those courageous conversations. And so once that safe space has been established, then it does present opportunities for you to have those courageous conversations. I do think that it's always very important that, everyone communicate with his or her supervisor to advise them on what their goals are, because your supervisor should be championing you and serving as that champion for whatever you want to do. And then that's the wonderful thing about Jeff is what I hear him say all the time. There's a place for everyone. There's a place for you to be able to use your skills, and be able to expand. If you may not be very up to speed, maybe in corporate communication, I'm using myself as an example. I said I had 20 plus years of accounting experience, but when I applied for this position and I got it, I came in and kicked off the ground and running. I will say though that, how I embraced the brand DNA, I think took me off to a great start. And then I'm very passionate, about communities, and I'm passionate about serving, others. I just wake up every day feeling like, what can I do today to make a difference? I say this all the time, and it's not, I really come to work and I'm excited to come to work. I really don't feel like it's a job to me. And so, at the end of the day, when I, clock out, and sometimes I really don't clock out, still because I love it so much. And, it's that accountant in me that wants to get everything done. But at the end of the day, I really feel like I am making a difference. I really feel like I'm making a difference. So that means, it just means a lot. And to kind of piggyback to what Kira was saying too about, and Devin mentioning these, the weekly calls that Jeff was doing that now are monthly, from my perspective, it really touched me, because I felt like he really cared and that he was looking out for everyone. I felt like he was a father looking out for all the children of the company. He took on this role of, I want to make sure you stay safe. And, as Devin mentioned, we created, benevolent task force, which I actually led, the pandemic task force, as Devin mentioned earlier. He had everything in line to where everything just ran smoothly. And, I talk with some of the colleagues, and they're like jealous. They're like, your company, it just seems like you guys just keep going. So, having that feeling makes me energized and excited every day to come to work. I really am.
Yeah.
And more productive. And so first of all, let me just share with the three of you, it shows, right? The enthusiasm shows in everything you do, and it's contagious. So
Very contagious.
it's comes naturally for him, I think, but it's just a brilliant management trait on his part. But it's very natural, and we all should be that lucky, correct?
Yeah.
Yes, we're blessed.
So, ladies, I'm sure as part of the Women in Energy group, you also cover this next question from a viewer, the work life. We get this every week, the work-life balance question. Devin, is there work-life balance?
They say it exists. I'm not a very good role model for it.
It's just a fleeting moment.
So what I tell everybody, and this is I tell the HR team this as well, we all know our own boundaries, right? And at the end of the day, if you're not good, you can't be good for other people, right? And so you got to take care of yourself. And so we all know what those boundaries are for us, and we all know that when we're about to reach that limit. So what I encourage people is just listen to your body, listen to yourself, listen to like recently I told my team, I'm like, I'm really sorry, guys, but I just need a vacation.
Right.
I didn't realize how much I needed some time away until I actually had unplugged for an entire 24 to 48 hours. It's like, wow, I never knew I needed that. But you're not your best self all the time when you don't when you're not fully there. So I encourage you to try to find that work balance. We've had our employee assistance program, our EAP provider. They've come in and done a couple of sessions on just stress and managing time management and priorities. So this is a great opportunity for us to continually learn how to balance that.
So we've started doing, instead of week-long vacations, or I don't think we've ever had a longer vacation, but instead of week-long, my husband now supports like 3 or 4 day weekends, because we'd go on a week vacation and I'd get sick. It's like just the whole immune system. So it's like, don't go on vacation with me anymore. We come back sick. Kira, what about you? How do you balance, what you really, being creative at home, as we know that you are, and doing a phenomenal job at work?
I think there is balance, but I think you have to be intentional about that balance. And I wasn't in early on in my career. I agree with Devin, right? To use an aviation reference, you have to put your mask on before you assist others. And it's true. I was forced to learn that last year with the birth of my son, and just taking some time. It felt really odd. It felt really odd to be at home,
right?
For those 12 weeks or 3 months. But it was the best thing, because I got to spend that time with him, and then when I was ready to get back to work, was able to do so. Yeah. So I think it's not a myth, it's a thing. But you really have to be intentional about finding the time, and kind of trying to separate work and home.
Oh, my husband just put a comment in there. Yes, that's true. Yeah, I'm never going on vacation with her again. Kira, thank you, dear. We love you too. Kira, how old is your son now?
He's actually 14 months today.
Wonderful.
So,
wonderful.
Yeah. Thank you for asking. He's a joy. He's a joy, and it just gives you a whole different perspective on life. So.
Absolutely. And Debbie, what do you like to do when you're not working? We know you like to read.
Yes, I do. And as I stated earlier, community service is what I do. It's what I know. It's just how I was raised. So, I don't get enough time off and down, because I am still very involved in lots of other organizations that are geared towards volunteer and service. And so it may sound kind of weird to some, but that actually is a joy to me. And it can be a little bit of a different downtime. But service is just what I do. It's, I've raised my children to be the same way. I believe that we're all put here on this earth to do something and to make a difference. And, and how you spend your dash before you leave is up to you. But the one thing I've always said to my children is get out there and make a difference in this world. The world needs you.
Absolutely. I think you've each heard me say, the way I answer that question each and every time when it's posed directly to me is, I think every day is a series of decisions, and what has your complete attention at any given moment is just going to differ. And
exactly,
I don't know that it's a balance, although Kira, I would like to think that we've all found it, but it's just a series of decisions you make every day. And sometimes it's personal that takes a priority, and sometimes it's profession, and you hope, on the other end, it all comes out okay. My kids used to tell me, we don't want you to stay at home. You're good. You're good. So I think they did. I think they did okay. I think they did okay. Here's the last question. Let's close with this. So what advice would you give that second-year college student looking for a career in energy? Debbie?
So the advice that I would give that second-year student looking for a career in energy is just go for it. The sky is the limit. Don't limit yourself. And, always say that, you can. Never give up and keep pursuing, and just, shoot for the stars.
Absolutely. Thank you. Debbie. Thank you for being with us today.
You're
Kira?
welcome. Thank you.
For me, it would just be, we talked about this earlier, and I think it served me well, is just to be flexible and adaptable. And maybe, your degree is in the
Aviation.
energy, isn't exactly, or maybe it's in the energy industry, and you
Right.
are trying to make inroads there, and your path takes a different turn, and you're in a different industry. So whatever the industry is, my advice would just be to say yes to every opportunity within a reason, if you can, and to remain flexible as your journey continues.
Excellent. Thank you, Kira. Thank you for all that you do.
Thank you.
Devin?
Well, for me, I tell that 2-year college student to come talk to someone in human
Yes.
resources at the company that want to get experience.
Yes,
Have some internship or seasonal or summer help, something. I think that's the first thing. But I would also, echo what Debbie and Kira had said. Be flexible, be open, find out what it is that you enjoy, and most importantly, be authentic. Be true to yourself. That'll open up
And if you want to learn more about the energy industry, student, I would invite you to let me sponsor you for the Women in Energy Forum. So give us a call. You can register as a student at flwomeninenergy.com. And ladies, thank you for being you. I know you each have registered for the forum. It wouldn't be the same without you. And Devin, you're going to help me with the students there. We're going to make sure that they've got great networking opportunities, right, in the forum. She's one of our volunteer energy executives meeting with the students. So you really do get access, and we're glad for it. Thank you for your leadership. Chesapeake Cares. Thank you for playing a small role in the lives of everyone at the company. You are so appreciated, and thank you for being with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lila. Thank you for having
Lila.
us.
We'll
Yes,
see.
thank you for having us.